Have you ever felt like your attention is just being pulled in a million directions at once? Yeah, you are not alone. In his book, Hyperfocus, author Chris Bailey gives us this really powerful roadmap to, reclaim our minds from the chaos of modern distraction. He mixes cognitive science with these super practical exercises to help us master deep concentration and, this is the surprising part, unlock our most creative ideas. So in this explainer, we're going to break down his key lessons and show you exactly how to weave them into your daily life.
So our little journey through these ideas is going to be broken down into 4 key parts. First up, we'll talk about why your attention is probably the single most valuable thing you have. Then, we're going to dive into the nitty-gritty, the art of hyperfocus. After that, we'll explore its surprising counterpart, the magic of scatterfocus. And finally, we'll figure out how to put it all together to build a powerful and balanced attention portfolio. Sound good? Let's get started.
Okay, so let's start right at the beginning. Before we can even begin to manage our attention, we really have to understand what we're up against. Section 1 is all about this idea of treating your attention as your most valuable asset and learning how to navigate what's called the attention economy. I want you to think about it like this. Your attention basically acts like a currency in today's digital marketplace. Seriously, every single app, every notification, every headline, they're all competing for you to spend your focus on them. But what happens when we spend that currency without even thinking about it? Well, when we spend our attention recklessly, constantly switching tasks, chasing the next shiny object, we end up depleting the very resource we need to do meaningful work and to form genuine connections with other people. It's almost like we're just draining our mental bank account day after day. What Bailey argues, and this is so powerful, is that your level of focus literally determines the texture of your reality. Just look at these 2 scenes. On the right, with deep concentration, the world just comes alive, right? Colors get brighter, sounds are sharper, ideas start to crystallize. But then look at the left. With scattered attention, everything just flattens out into this gray blur of half-formed thoughts and mounting stress. Which world would you rather live in? So, how do we get more of that vibrant, focused reality? Well, that brings us right to section 2, the art of hyperfocus. This is where we learn the actual practical skills to achieve that deep, intentional concentration. Most of us spend our days in what Bailey calls autopilot mode, just mindlessly clearing out emails, endlessly scrolling through social feeds. It kind of feels productive, but it's really not. The key to breaking free from that is intentionality. True mastery only begins when you decide, when you name your desired outcome before you even start a task. And to do this, Bailey suggests this really simple 2-question ritual. The first question you should always ask yourself is this: what is my one specific goal right now? Not 5 goals, not some vague intention, but one single concrete thing. And the second question, which is just as important, is how will I know I've succeeded? Answering this simple question forces you to define what done actually looks like. This little ritual is so powerful because it transforms these vague intentions like, oh, I'm going to work on the report, into a clear, actionable target. The reason this all works is because our attention functions a lot like a spotlight with a really narrow beam. You can point it intensely at one thing, and it's super powerful. But the moment you try to illuminate multiple objects at once, what we call multitasking, you just dilute its power. The light gets dimmer, you start making more mistakes, and you get mentally exhausted way faster. So, getting into this state of true deep work or hyperfocus happens in 4 pretty clear stages. First, you define your object of attention, that one specific goal we just talked about. Second, you ruthlessly eliminate all the possible distractions you can. Third, you engage completely with the task at hand. And finally, and this is so important, when your mind inevitably wanders, you just gently guide it back without any judgment. Of course, that eliminate distraction step is often easier said than done, right? Distractions come from the outside, notifications, chatty coworkers, but they also come from within, like restlessness or self-doubt. Bailey offers a pretty practical toolkit for both. For external noise, you can try batching your notifications into specific focus windows. For the internal noise, you can create a mental parking lot by just jotting down those intrusive thoughts to deal with later. And simple tools like noise-canceling headphones can work wonders too. All right, so we've spent a lot of time talking about intense, narrow focus. But believe it or not, that's only half the story. Now let's explore its creative counterpart in Section 3, the magic of scatterfocus. This is all about intentionally letting your mind wander to unlock your brain's hidden creative mode. So if hyperfocus is like aiming a powerful spotlight, then scatterfocus is like switching off the high beams and just gazing at the whole panoramic night sky. It's in this state of gentle, unfocused attention that your mind can really roam freely, connecting all these different memories and forging completely new ideas. And this leads to a really crucial reframing of how we think about productivity. We're taught to see rest as the opposite of work, but Bailey argues that rest is not the absence of work, but a vital resource for it. It's the time when our brain is actually doing some of its most important creative work. And the magic of scatterfocus, it happens quietly, in the background. A line you read in a book, a snippet of a conversation you overheard, or something you notice on a random walk. These little dots get stored away. Then, days later, out of nowhere, your mind can suddenly stitch them together into a brilliant aha moment. To make the most of this, Bailey encourages us to actively collect these dots by curating our own personal library of interesting ideas. He suggests a simple little triage system. Once a week, review the stuff you've collected, then tag it by theme or by project so you can actually find it later, and just as importantly, purge anything that doesn't really spark joy anymore, just to keep your idea well fresh. Okay, this brings us to our final and maybe our most important section. Now that we understand both intense focus and creative mind wandering, how in the world do we put them together? Well, it's time to build your attention portfolio and create a truly balanced mind. So the most crucial takeaway is this. Hyperfocus and scatterfocus are not enemies. As you can see here, they're like yin and yang. They are complementary forces in your cognitive toolkit. You need that deep concentration of hyperfocus to execute on your plans. And you absolutely need the creative mind wandering of scatterfocus to fuel real innovation. So where do you start? Bailey suggests keeping it super simple. Just begin by experimenting with one ritual from each mode. Try one short, intense focus sprint each day, and try to balance that with one short walk completely without any technology. And if you want to take this even further, there are plenty of avenues to explore. You could try an attention audit for a week just to see where your focus is really going. You could dive into related books like Cal Newport's Deep Work. You could experiment with some mindfulness or breathing exercises. Or you could even try hosting a walking brainstorm with a friend or colleague to blend movement and creativity. Ultimately, the goal here isn't just about getting more done. It's about this. By continually refining your approach to attention, you can experience every single moment with greater clarity, presence, and purpose. So the final question I want to leave you with is this. What is one small change you can make today to start managing your attention instead of letting it manage you?